A very good evening to you and welcome to Business Today, your weekly business show on Channel I, where we give you an in-depth look at today's business landscape. So today we will be touching on the apparel industry. So we will be talking more on that today. Stay tuned in. Well, today's business personality is someone who is currently attached to the apparel industry, and he has been attached to several other sectors, and we will be touching on his expertise and what he intends to do in terms of growing this industry further. So let's take a look at who our business personality of the week is. Mr. Denzil Indrajith Perera is the chairman of Lanka Salusala Limited. He is the former General Manager, Haley's Adventure IRM, Director of Sanasa General Insurance Company. Armed with over 16 years of sales and branding experience in top corporates such as ACL Cables, Marina Foods, Union Assurance, Hemas Holdings and Sri Lanka Insurance. He is an old boy of Ananda College, Colombo. Mr. Denzil Perera has a specialized background in business with a Master of Business Administration from the Postgraduate Institute of Management, Bachelor of Science in Business Administration specializing in marketing with special honors from the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. He has a Diploma in Marketing qualification from the United Kingdom. His expertise lies in the domains of general insurance, personal care, food, international business, service marketing, B2B and B2G sales, customer care and cables. He has served in the fields of marketing, branding and sales at a number of leading local companies. Well, we do have with us Mr. Denzil Perera, who is the chairman of Lanka Salusala Limited and also a board member of the Sanasa General Insurance. And as the introduction did very clearly mention that you've been having experience in different other sectors. First and foremost, a very good evening to you.
Good evening
and welcome to our program.
Thank you for it.
And Mr. Denzil Perera, we would like to touch on the apparel industry and your current post as the chairman of Lanka Salusala Limited.
Yeah.
But before we get into this topic, let's talk a little bit about your expertise in different sectors. Now, we touched on general insurance, personal care, and also food, international business, service marketing, and all that. So how do you intend to bring in all these expertise into this sector? How is it going to be helpful?
Yeah. So if you take Salusala today, where Salusala stands, you know, from the history of being more of a selling arm to the locally manufactured textile and apparel products, Salusala is into trading. Trading is a service. So you can see the you're asking about my experience and expertise. My forte has been branding, and I've also been heading certain companies' sales teams, where I got myself involved in setting new channels, especially the channel growth and also brand development, branding and marketing. So my intention is basically to revamp the brand, rejuvenate Salusala. You know, Salusala has been a well-recognized, credible brand in Sri Lanka, and people still have their nostalgic feeling about Salusala if you ask from your parents maybe. And for some reason it's been out of sight, and out of sight is out of mind. So time for us to basically revamp and regain that glory, and you know, really provide some good services to the local consumers, especially those who are, you know, keen on buying locally made apparel products. So that's my intention.
Right. And let's talk a little bit about the inception of Salusala. Take us back in time. Give us more details about the history of this organization.
The history goes back to 1967, where probably we were both not born. And it was known as State Trading Textile Corporation, as Salusala. And then from 1971 to 1991, it has been in this sector, and in 1991 it's got registered as incorporated as Lanka Salusala Limited. But you know, during this 20-year span, what happened in the Sri Lankan economy? In 1978, the open economy was introduced. So late Prime Minister, the world's first Prime Minister, Sirimao Bandaranaike, had this nationalization, nationally grown businesses, improving and introducing local entrepreneurship likewise. So T.B. Langaratna was the trade minister back by then. They started the salusala along with few other facilities and factories to manufacture textile. For example, Pugoda, Vatex, Tultex, even the one in Colombo. So they were the manufacturing arms. And then this production has to be taken to market, and that was done by salusala. So salusala was predominantly in the forefront. But with the introduction of the open economy, what happened was that they had to compete with the imported material, and initially it was, I think, a good experience for local customers. But if you take today, in today's context, Sri Lankan apparel sector is actually manufacturing their best and exporting to the US and the European markets, and we are the supplier for most of the world-renowned brands. And hardly any local consumers get the opportunity of consuming these, experiencing these, because we have become the dumping yard for most of the countries, and that's what the masses, the common Sri Lankans can experience. So this is the kind of background we are in.
Like you very correctly mentioned, Denzil, that salusala had a name for itself, and back in the days people really looked up to this specific brand to buy locally manufactured textiles. So right now we kind of see this fading, and as the chairman, how do you intend to bring this back to I think the youth is the future of the country, in the future of the world rather, I would say. So how do you intend to make them interested in getting products of this nature?
Well, if you take the Sri Lankan youth with compared to say 20 years back or 30 years back, today they are quite advanced, they are more informed, and they get access to a lot of information, and they are more exposed to the world through social media and internet. So they see the trends in the world. For example, if you take the European market today, true that they have all the prestigious brands. At the same time, there is a new trend, the downshifting and also minimalizing. Likewise, there are new concepts that are coming up from the youth. So I think I see that as a big opportunity for salusala also. Even though salusala is not directly involved or engages in any sort of manufacturing of these things, salusala can play a key role in acting as the hub for to basically facilitate trading, and along with that, the youth in the country can basically support this industry. Example, salusala comes under the State Ministry of Handloom, Batik and Local Apparel. So if you take Batik and Handloom into consideration, there are a lot of changes that has taken place in the past, like for example, from handmade batik to machine-made batik. Batik being printed now in various countries, especially competition coming from Indonesia. And then if you take handmade has gone from handloom, gone from handmade to machine loom. So the youth, actually, I think you are asking particularly about the youth. Sri Lankan consumer is more or less hybrid in nature. Hybrid as in we have a little bit of us that basically carries the localness, Sri Lankanness, and then at the same time we like to be a little bit modernized. So you see this hybrid
there's a fusion
of the two ends. So I think this sector, this trend is the opportunity I see, and it's an opportunity for salusala and for various other manufacturers in Sri Lankan market also.
So how can a local producer get in touch with salusala and maybe brainstorm and tell that this is what they've got in store for the local market?
Yeah, well, actually we are in the process of establishing a hotline, and there is no proper website as of yet, so we want to basically launch a website So, and also get them connected through various social media. That's all currently underway. Addition to that, they can connect with us because if you are a manufacturer of local apparel, handloom, batik, please connect with us. Feel free to connect with us. I'm not in a position to divulge any contact numbers, but obviously you can find ways of getting connected. Why I'm saying it is, if you take the batik manufacturers in Sri Lanka, the cottage industry, the artisans, and also handloom, they the market has been kind of going through evolution, and they have been stuck at one point, and they could not move beyond that. So as a result, what happened is that the designs, the colors, the combination of both maybe is not up to the expectation of the current context, and as a result of that, local batik or handloom has not reached where it can reach. So we invite the local artisans, manufacturers, brand makers to join hands with Salusala, because we are actually thinking of, I mean, the Honorable State Minister Denzil is with the vision of establishing advisory committees for various sectors. So they can contribute. Now, for example, if you go to traditional batik makers, there's a process they follow. And first you need to get the material, then you need to sketch the thing that you want to print on it, and then you cover it with wax, and then you put dyes, and dyes also goes from the lighter color to the darkest color, and then you need to remove wax in the piece of cloth, and then stitch into finishing, and then it stops, right? So but now what we need to add into this thing is, what we intended doing is that we need to basically introduce packaging, labeling. Now if you take Ceylon tea, they carry the Ceylon tea, the logo. Whoever who exports from Sri Lanka, it's a mandatory thing for them to obtain that certification, and that goes on the pack. So likewise, I'm planning actually to introduce this thing for local handloom and batik also. So likewise, there are a lot of things that we can do together, but I see people trying to point fingers at certain parties and to find faults with some parties, but I think it's an overall joint effort that we need to take as Sri Lankans.
Exactly, and Denzil, you very correctly mentioned about artisans and about the contribution they give in terms of manufacturing batiks and handlooms. So we are talking about trend, and we're talking about color combinations, as you mentioned. So is there any procedure, or is there any way or plans implemented to educate these artisans on the trend and the needs?
Well, actually, yes. This ministry, if you know, this ministry is a new ministry which has never been in the history in Sri Lanka, probably, as far as I know. So it was established under the vision of His Excellency the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to empower local primary industries, empower the local handloom industry, batik industry, apparels, etc. Now, if you take the ministry, it has Laksala, Salusala, NDC, National Design Center, and then SLETA. So SLETA is the authorized institution to promote and to conduct training. And when you take training aspect of it, you see, if you take batik and handloom sector, the kind of people who are involved in it are at the latter stages of their life, unfortunately. So the moment they go out of this picture, the next generation has not come to the front to take this forward. And then we analyze why the reasons are. Two reasons. One is the economic support they get by being in this industry is inconsiderable.
And it doesn't look good. I mean,
it doesn't look good.
Exactly.
It looks messy if you go to one of those places. And hence they don't get any recognition. So where there is no economic benefit, no recognition, there is no motivation for anyone to be in that industry any further. So I think that's one of the areas we are going to focus on. It was in the plan, but unfortunately due to the pandemic, we are not in a position to get people come to one place, train them likewise. There are miniature things happening here and there, but this was supposed to be nationwide thing that we wanted to plan, and we actually planned and launched. but we could not continue due to the current pandemic situation. Online is not an option for this. You need to get hands-on experience.
This is about creativity.
It's about creativity, and it's also about discipline. Like if you take handloom, a lady who works on that machine, she has to have that discipline. It's like more like a meditation. And then if you take batik, it's a process. It's not just one thing. So I mean, we went to different parts of the country, watching, researching on them. We could see that they are stuck because of the pandemic situation, but movement is so, I'm sure that we can take it to the mass scale training, and also we are focusing more on training plus empowering them with necessity, for example, for raw material to continue production, because no matter how much ever you train them, the moment they go into their own factory level or manufacturing facilities, if they don't have raw material, for example, is a big problem today. For batik especially, prices have gone really sky high, and then partially due to the exchange rate influence, and also due to the recent boom in the batik industry. With the establishment of the industry, the raw material suppliers could see that there is a boom in this industry.
There's a demand.
There's a demand, and why not we take a little price hike? So there are if you analyze the situation, the factors contributing to the issues are coming from various ends. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's easy to handle, but we are basically laying out plans to arrest them and to give solutions.
Right. So you've taken over this organization at a very crucial period, and it's affected because of the pandemic. And tourism was one of our main. We depend on tourism mostly for our economy, and because of the pandemic, obviously we don't have much people coming in, and it's not allowed. So how do you intend to do sales? And we see a lot of tourists interested in buying our products. So what could be done in terms of marketing this overseas?
Well, I should also mention about the previous chairman, a former chairman of Salusala and Laksala, late Mr. Pradeep Gunawardena. Along with the minister, in the master plan that we had plans of taking this to other countries by means of franchising Salusala in, say, to Europe, to US, to Australia likewise. So we are pretty much on the same plan, and I want to basically revamp the brand here. I'm thinking of revamping the outlet at Javatta, and also Salusala has had about 30 branches island-wide. So we are trying to basically reopen them, revamp them, so that locally we establish the distribution. And also channel development. Now, if you take predominantly we are supplying to certain government institutions, and has hardly any B2C sales, and B2B private sector nothing much. So I'm trying to actually establish channels for direct accounts, for government sector, for the retail sector likewise, and also online is playing a big role. And as we are going online, we have the opportunity of selling it to any other country. At the same time, franchising to different countries with identified suitable partners, so that we can establish our brand in different parts of the world. And I'm sure there will be a demand for our products, because it's not just the product which would go. There will be a story going with this, and there will be a piece of life that we would carry with these products of these women who are involved in this manufacturing process, the Sri Lankan women. The Sri Lankan culture would go along with that. So that's my plan, and it's still underway. Hopefully we'll be seeing results towards the end of this year.
We certainly have a lot of Sri Lankans living overseas as well, who would love to wear this with pride and call themselves Sri Lankans.
Yes.
So I think that's one of your plans to take this overseas as well. So speaking of overseas market, where do we stand in terms of apparel, and are we up to the mark, or are we getting there?
Well, I don't need to mention the brands, the companies which have taken apparel to the world market, like MAS to Brandix, Hydra Money to various other companies. they are manufacturing up to the standards of world-renowned brands. Needless to mention the brands. So, and not only that, if you take the Bangladesh economy today, which is growing at 8%, is purely because of our, the apparel industry. It's our people who went to Bangladesh and taught them how this could be done, and then they kept growing, because the factor that was contributing to their success story was labor, cheap labor. And today investors are moving from Bangladesh to Vietnam, and Vietnam is found to be the best place to establish apparel sector industries today. So we can see that we've been the pioneers in this in the region, and we are helping out to other nations. Today we are kind of stagnant. I wouldn't say we are losing, we are stagnant, but there is a market, huge market coming from the Chinese, the middle end, especially the new middle end of China, about 600 million people. So if we can maintain the same quality and we can manufacture at the same level, we have a market, ready market in China. Then we need to look at the European market and the US and the Australian market likewise, even the African market. They like to wear batik, and we have not gone there yet. Middle Eastern market.
We are not the only countries who deal with batik as well. I think Indonesia, as you did mention, they are also into batik.
They are into batik and they do printed batik.
Right.
But we have the authentic handmade batik, and our people know how to make it. It's just that we don't have the infrastructure support in terms of raw material right now. So if we I mean, where I see the issue is that people really, I mean, they can't really think of brand in this. It's because their focus, attention has always been on the production process. So they are too much involved in production. Probably the second generation has not come forward helping them out with, marketing this. I mean, when I go to see most of the large scale top grade manufacturers of batik who have not reached the top end yet, I could see that the second generation is not there, right? So what it means is that there's a lot of tacit knowledge which is going to go away from our society the moment they are not in the picture. So to answer your question, yes, we have huge potential to take it to the international market, and we need to preserve this industry.
Exactly, and we need to make the generations to follow also get into this industry.
Yes.
And we mentioned about how we stand in global terms in this industry. And speaking of batik, I think initially handloom and batik, I think we Sri Lankans should love to wear the batik we have and we make.
Yes.
So sometimes we mostly target on foreigners. We're like, okay, so since the tourism industry is not currently operating, we're like, okay, this has gone down. But if we see a lot of Sri Lankans actually wearing batik and handloom with pride, I think we can certainly market this. So the problem sometimes I see is because when you have talent and when you put in a lot of effort into your design and production, the cost of the batik you buy, a sari maybe, is quite expensive. Yes. So a person can't actually afford it to wear it on a normal basis. Yeah. So what are the measures you would like to take in terms of encouraging our people to, get into batik? Because I think Indonesia has implemented, like, you need to wear this every weekend or something like that to work. Yeah. So are we promoting it, is the question.
I think to answer your question, yes, we have. Because there was a request coming from the state minister and few other authorities encouraging our employees also to wear it as a dress down thing on Friday. And also in Sri Lanka we have a lot of teachers, and their uniform is sari, bankers sari. So likewise, if you take a look at it, we have the potential to cater to these needs, and it has to be for more mass market, the price, the quality, and also not only that, if you take the apparel sector, like local apparel, lot of fashion retail outlet chains in Sri Lanka today, they have started their own production, and that's a good thing. And addition to that, if you take for instance national flags various other religious flags and all that. If you take, and if you just take the number of flags you would want in a season, that itself is huge potential for us to manufacture locally, at least to print it locally. So likewise, if you take the health sector, there is demand. If you take the school uniforms, there is demand. So we have a potential demand to get into, to set up an industry, and which can actually promote the locally manufactured products. So that's one of the areas that we look at. Through that, we also look at batik, promoting it, like you said, say Sinhala and Tamil New Year time, or maybe Christmas time, or maybe any other religious festival. So we have identified these months and these specific dates to promote it. Those things will come out, but it's all been held back due to the current prevailing condition. However, we are pretty much confident that this can be taken into the market, and people will definitely embrace it, and they will be proud to wear locally made products.
Yes, and I think this should not stop at schools and banks and maybe government institutions. I think when a person just looks at a garment or an attire, they should feel like, I'm going to buy batik, I'm going to wear this on a regular basis. I think that's something we need to do in terms of promoting this.
I missed that point, and the question that you asked, you specifically asked about how we can get those new designs, new concepts to the mass market level. So that's the challenge we have, because we are depending, for example, when it comes to batik, we need to depend on imports of raw material, like for example, wax, dyes and other chemicals. So one of the main things that we are going to do is to establish proper, identified, credible supply sources, and also the disposal of these dyes. Once you use it, you can't just dispose it. So it's been happening over the years, but today the government has taken steps to at least regionally establish recycling plants for these. And then when it comes to caustic soda sort of things, we've been depending on imports, but today we are looking at Parantan. There's a source that we can buy from them. So likewise, and also some segments are looking at natural colors. Probably natural colors, 100% handmade, would be little expensive. Maybe,
and I think that's with the idea of going green.
And it will be expensive, but there will be a market that we can cater with that as well. So we are going to actually look at 3 segments: the top end, the middle end and the bottom end, and we need to cater to their buying power, their taste palette, their the personalities, the values that they carry. All that would be taken into consideration in our marketing efforts.
And what about expanding the product range without just sticking only to textiles, only to wearables? What about expanding it? You mentioned about channel development and promoting this with various other institutions and organizations, and you've been attached to the private sector. So what do you intend to do in terms of collaborating with them?
Interesting question. So as far as the market, channels are concerned, yes, we are going to develop new channels, but product development is the key thing here. Like you said, we don't need to confine ourselves only into apparel, clothing. Likewise, we can look at interior, we can look at supplying for hotels. Now pandemic is not going to be here forever. It will come to an end, and then tourism, people will start traveling. So Sri Lanka will be a tourism hotspot, and there will be many things to supply as far as the interior is concerned. Bed linens are concerned, pillow covers to curtains to. So that's the new range that we are going to look at. And also we are also looking at now, last Christmas, the uniforms, what the clergies wear, that was provided by the ministry, and there was a festival. So that is going to be developed, and probably looking at export opportunities in that as well. And even the robes of the monks, that also could be done here. So we are basically going to look at diversification opportunities, and we are going to get into collaborations with private sector, for example, in terms of design consultancy, in terms of technology, because technology is the key thing which can actually help us save in energy, help us protecting the environment. Likewise, and also now if you take all the BOI companies, they have clothes, I mean the material that they bring down for production, and some of that would not be utilized. Maybe off cuts, maybe the unutilized part of it, and that goes nowhere. So we are actually trying to get it under salusala and then give it to local manufacturers so that they can make use of it. Likewise, yes, collaboration and partnerships is going to be the way forward, and we are actually going to look at it not only in terms of technicality and material, also investments, because we need to get investors to come and start factories here to locally produce these. So that's another angle that we're going to look at.
And you also did mention about the ban on ready-made garments, and you mentioned a little bit about the disadvantages of importing, and obviously the ban would make it an advantage. But what's your opinion on this?
See, consumer liberalism is important. Consumers should have the freedom of choosing what they want to choose. But at the same time, we need to be mindful of the situation we are in. Now, if you take the current situation today, we have a dollar crisis, and we need to maintain our exchange rates. We can't let it float, and we can't just keep spending on imports. But fortunately, unfortunately, people can spend online, and they can bring stuff down. So what I feel is that there has to be a certain liberty in choosing what you want. At the same time, there has to be a way that we look at manufacturing them in Sri Lanka and controlling that, so that we can grow our business. Now, for example, if you take something like school uniforms, if you keep importing it forever, probably few people can get the benefit out of it. But if you really look at it, and if you get into this point where you start manufacturing it, you can actually transfer that profits that you make into the development of this process. So in the long run, we can be self-sufficient in certain angles, not with all categories of material. In certain angles, we can be self-sufficient. So I think as rational consumers, as patriotic consumers, and as modern consumers who understand the reality, I think we can look at certain options of locally made stuff. So I see good and bad both, but I think more goods than the downsides.
We've come towards the latter part of this program, so I thought of touching on some advice for all these budding entrepreneurs who intend to get into the apparel sector, and in terms of promoting batik and handloom. What should they do, and what would your advice be to them?
Well, I think I would always ask them to look at 4 P's. Like what is the product that I'm going to develop? See, because there are so many aspects that you can look at, so many products that you can look at. So, I mean, before you get there, you need to understand, okay, what is the segment that I'm going to cater to? Like, for example, if you think of exporting batik or handloom, there is European market, and their taste is totally different to what the African market has, to the Middle Eastern market, Japanese market, Australian market. So you need to identify your niche. You can't be everything to everyone. You need to identify what I'm going to be to whom, and then you can develop product, and that's where the creativity can come in, your new designs, which should also be innovative in terms of not just the design per se, but also the material usage, how to reduce the consumption of dyes and all that, how to get into new techniques of weaving maybe, which can give a better finish. And actually, I'm very glad to say that there are a lot of young girls and boys that are coming up with new ways of doing things, which actually reduces consumption of maybe dyes, yarns, etc., and also giving a better finish. So and one of the main things what Sri Lanka lack is the finish, the completion of the thing, packaging, branding, brand development is something that we need to look at. So that's where we need to pay more attention to it, do our own research online, because information is freely available now. You can do comparisons of your prices with certain other countries' products, and that will basically be the way forward for us if you are really keen on getting into any business line in this aspect.
And you mentioned that you will be having you have the idea of revamping the salusala outlets. So does this mean every salusala outlet will be getting a facelift?
Yes. As I told you, salusala had 30 outlets in Sri Lanka. Now most of them are not operational, and the Javatta main outlet is not operational properly, and there are new hotspots in Colombo that we need to basically get into and open up outlets, because I mean, it's retail. As I told you, it's retail, it's a service. So how you make the consumer feel, the shopper feels, is important. So customer marketing, shopper marketing, consumer marketing, product marketing, brand marketing, everything should come together. Just because you have a name for it, people would not come and buy. And also we need to look at the commodity market. So in the revamp process, we are also going to look at the products that the conventional or the previous generations looked at. For example, they would come and buy maybe bed linens to various other things. So that also should be there. But overall experience aspect will be looked at, quality will be looked at, because salusala is known for its quality over the last, I don't know, maybe 4 decades.
From the 60s.
From 60s to 70s to 80s, people still talk about the quality and the credibility factor. So whilst maintaining those aspects of the brand, we need to get into the new areas of the brand and make more better associations, and then make it a more reliable and good brand in the future.
And you mentioned about channel development and introducing different products and the range. We touched on interiors and all that. So what about making these products available in other maybe sales outlets, B2B sales?
Yeah, so I think that's what I said. In channel development, we are also going to look at example modern trade. We can have, in certain modern trade chains, we can have a corner for salusala. In most of the ready-made fashion outlet chains, I would need to mention names. You have various.
We have a lot.
We have a lot. In all those chains, they are already willing to allocate space for us,
right?
Because they want to support this. So that's what I said. I'm inviting everyone to join hands with us, and we can be the supplier of quality products, and they can entertain, they can accommodate these products in a corner which is dedicated for salusala, addition to the franchise outlets we are going to open up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Denzil Perera, for being a part of the show. It was really nice talking to you, and thank you for enlightening us on this industry and where it's heading to.
Thank you.
And with that, we conclude this week's edition of Business Today. Have a pleasant night.